So the last bit of Mars is stance. I think we could have called it stance or stability because they're kind of interrelated. We know from looking at the data that in terms of injury post-60, any injury post-60, the biggest one is falling. And that leading not just to injury itself, but also to injury-related deaths. So we need to keep our posture good, our strength good through our aerobics, through our resistance training and our moving more. But our stance, how we hold ourselves, how we sit, how we stand, can you stand on one leg, all this sort of stuff. Let's give some tips about working into your daily routine. You mentioned in another video, building your stance into your daily routine. You said, you do one-legged stands while you do your teeth, and you just build one discipline on top of the other so that you're not taking up extra time. I mean, just quickly elaborate on that and we'll get some more ideas.
Yeah, I think that's key is, again, going back to the whole sort of we're time poor thing, is incorporating it into something that you're already doing and you're doing regularly, you're doing every day, and it just then becomes part of a habit. So what I do most mornings and most before bed is stand on one leg for 1 minute as I'm brushing my teeth and then switch and do a minute on the other leg. And it's just a great opportunity for me to work on that balance, work on that ankle, knee and hip stability. And also you'd be so surprised at how much, initially first starting off, how much there was an instability in one of my legs versus the other one. I've got a history of bad knee injury on this side, and it was typically, single leg stuff was typically a lot of what I did in my rehab exercise program in the gym. But then you get to a certain point where it feels okay and then you stop. So introducing something like that back into your daily ritual is really beneficial, hugely beneficial,
And of course the old stability discs.
Yeah.
And different at home. I must admit I don't sit on it at home, but in the office, always sitting on it because again you're engaging the core. I also find that I'm a bit of a sloucher because of all the years working on computers, whereas with this and taking the back of the stool off forces you to sit straighter. What other tips, techniques have we got for helping people get the stance right?
It's really good. Well, you're destabilising yourself and asking yourself to find stability somewhere, and then stability and posture and strength are all intrinsically linked. As part of my degree, one of the things that I was looking at was stability in youngsters. And the reason why I was doing that was because I was fascinated by the fact that when there's a certain age that youngsters are, I'm talking about primary school age, from the age of about, let's say, 8 to 11, whereas they find it very difficult to balance certainly on unstable objects, etc. But also, what was really interesting about that is that I was slightly inspired by a study by a guy who ended up a professor of mine called Keith Davids. And what Keith had done the study, whereas he'd taken a group of people and taught them the kids, and they threw balls at them through a ball machine, and they had to catch one-handed, okay? And so they would catch one-handed, and they would separate them into good catchers and bad catchers. So you'd have all this group of good catchers and this group of bad catchers that couldn't catch one-handed. What was amazing is when you took the bad catchers and got them to sit down, and then fired the ball at them, all of them could catch it. See?
Wow.
So, and there was obviously no change. So it wasn't their inability to catch.
Yeah.
It was the fact that they couldn't balance properly and maintain stability in that position because of their age and stage that they were at. It's something that can develop over time. Wow. So my degree dissertation was done on enhancing postural stability and stability in youngsters to see if you could enhance their catching skills and other parts of the physiology, and it was really interesting. It did. It was in the site was really interesting. So it can actually just enhancing this stability and then taking that into the world and interacting with the world, you perceive things differently and you act differently. So I thought it was just a really fascinating little thing to add in there, because that was the implication of it for me. So we, with athletes and stuff back then, were sticking in lots and lots of single leg stability work and squatting down and holding positions with single legs and making it difficult for people to balance, but by holding your hands up in the air and reaching up high and things like that, and making it as difficult as you can for yourself and destabilising the system and asking the system to find some form of stability. and you'd watch that transfer directly into how people would move.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Cool, so cool.
And because you would actually think, when you see the 1-year-old, 2-year-olds getting up quickly, that you'd think, well, they've got great stance, but you're saying they lose it sort of,
well, they can
school age, and then also we must regain that, in teens.
Yeah, if you put like a 8, 9, 10-year-old on a stability mat, they find it really difficult. Interestingly, to actually balance on it. Yeah, it's postural stability. It's in the literature. It is interesting. It's a maturity thing. But one of the ways in which we did it, we looked at dynamic stability as well. And what we did to find that was we put them on a Wii Fit Plus and played the ski game. So you were able to actually track the Wii Fit. The Wii Fit comes with an actual balance pad in it. You could actually track their postural stability on that. Use these games as well as I think, and you could actually track exactly. It's what they are, the balance pads. Really, you're actually able to track it, and you could see it on the screen, and you could get actual real time data and stuff like that on it. So it was amazing to actually watch. You can actually improve it a bit. But some people actually just can't play certain sports at that time as well as they would like. But it's actually an age thing, so it's important that there's maybe other ways in which you could help them to improve catching and the things, sit them down, for example, and take posture out of it, take stability out of it, because the system is just trying to stabilise, so they can't perceive things quite the same. And so that's fascinating.
And for me, all parts of Mars are important, but my poor mum, she's 82, she's got very bad Alzheimer's, but also she's had a bad back for some years now. And she can't walk mainly because of her posture. Not because of a problem with her legs, but because as she's got iller and iller, she's become more and more bunched. For me, the stance bit, and just making sure that while you're of able mind, that you're conscious of how you're sitting, conscious of how you're standing, doing your balance exercises, doing some of your stretching exercises that you teach us so well, doing your broomstick exercises, being conscious of, like James saying, getting in and out of the chair without your hands and so on, and just trying to hold yourself properly, because for some reason we sit more now than we've ever done, and sitting and over technologies and doing that all the time, I think we're just on a downward slope when it comes to our posture.
I also think the reality is, it's shown to me recently, is that there's a picture of my little girl walking arm in arm with some bloke, and I realised it was me from behind. I literally look like a kind of, and it's not till you see your posture, what you think is normal, you realise that you walk like I was walking like a hunchback on Notre Dame, and you're okay. And see, it'd be interesting to see people take photos of you while you're sitting down. What do you adopt the geeky position on your computer, and just realising, okay, that's what I look like, so therefore I should sit not slumped. I should stand up, walk with my shoulders back, rather than, because you can't see yourself doing it until you see an image of it. You think actually it might be quite useful to people to have an image of what they look like, and then also in their head what they think they stand like or walk like.
Good point.
And I think in anything that we do, if you take the 5 points of the body that you talk about all the time, like your feet, and you're thinking about having even pressure through your feet all the time. So that's your big toe, little toe, and heel, really. And your knees are always going to sit tracked out in anything you do over the toes. Keep them tracked out. You have your hip over your knee, knees over the ankle, that all the time. You keep your chest proud. You want your shoulder to be over the hip when you're in a good stance. You have a little bit of natural extension here, and you have your head back and here. So a lot of the kids now, if you notice, they're a bit forward, a bit down like this. And so you want to keep the head back. And if anything you do in your life, even if it's running or picking things up, the only thing I look at when I'm looking at someone when they're doing an exercise or doing anything is if they're holding those positions. If everything's fine, so you just maintain those, do the exercise, as long as you maintain those, fine. It's okay, it's really safe, there's no issue, keep it control, that's it. And that will enhance your posture in all those given positions and that ability to stabilise. Because as soon as things are slightly off balance, if you're slightly here, it's more difficult to hold a posture, isn't it? As soon as you keep your muscles strong, you've kind of built that posture and that ability, you know where the position you need to be in, and then you use some of those exercises to try and hold positions in that and destabilise yourself. That's what you're trying to do, and you tax yourself in those positions, so when you come out of those positions, it's easier.
I haven't got an answer this, but you remember, if you're talking to old fella, old lady, and it says, how tall are you? Oh, it used to be 6 foot. Now, is that because over years the posture's just knocked an inch off, or is there a genuine, gravity eventually gets the better of you? So if we kept a good posture through life, would we actually maintain?
Definitely. So I would say on average, people that come in to see me will gain 2 or 3 centimetres, 2 centimetres.
Gain
in height.
In every area?
In height. Obviously not. James just I'm still training for that. I'm still training every day. But they gain. It's amazing.
Okay,
and it does absolutely definite. Absolutely, yeah. Without it's an absolute definite. So we take their height every time they come in, just because we're looking at their height. Because it makes a bit of sense as well as, if someone goes into space, when they come back down, they're taller. Because all their vertebrae, they're about 6 centimetres taller, something amazing.
What? Really?
Yeah. When spacemen they come down, they're taller because their vertebrae is just basically separated like that, because there's no gravity to push them down. See, so everyone just does this. But if you create a false gravity by enhancing your muscles, so you're almost holding your skeleton in position by creating that, so you're holding the system and you improve your posture, you grow, you'll be taller. So we see it all the time. And keeping yourself strong, etc., it keeps bone density up and things, so you don't your bones don't disintegrate basically. But the spaces between the joints stay more. So you'll see definitely 1 to 2 centimetres, a centimetre, definitely.
And then I guess a bad back is because you slump.
Yeah.
So you get taller, less injured.
It all fits in.
Yeah, it does.
It all fits in. All fits in. So you do. Have you seen that as well?
Yeah, massively. And there's just touched on what you just said about. My ears pricked up when you said about looking up, and I think everything we do sort of promotes forward flexion of the spine. So driving, laptops, mobile phones, they're the culprits in how much we use them. But there's something really, and we're all doing it right now. Having your knees below your hips is a real key thing, I think, when you sit down. If you sit down on something where your knees are actually higher than your hips, you're more likely to slump and to lose complete stability of your spine. Whereas if your knees are lower, you can easily sort of tilt your pelvis forward and back, and then that can resonate all the way up the spine to the head, and you can kind of bring your chin back a little bit as well. So I think for those people that are using chairs and just can't, there's a couple of options. You can obviously spend more time on the floor, take the chair away, and sort of keep changing position. For those people that are working from home or have desk-based jobs, they can sort of take the chair away, spend a bit of time on the floor. When that gets uncomfortable, stand up, work from a standing desk. But yeah, it's all these little things that we can do. Obviously, it's silly of me to say, stop using your phone. But even if we can just sort of bring it eye level rather than have it down there, because that's pulling on the neck so much. And they have this thing called dowager's hump, which a lot of elderly people experience and get as this sort of fatty deposit on the top of their neck. Then you've probably seen some people with it, going back to what you said about.
You see it particularly in people who've got type 2 diabetes and things like that.
And
also just part of the aging process. If they've not kept up some of this work.
So do you reckon that's why kids' postures are so good, because they spend so much of their time looking up at adults?
It might be,
And that's why tall people's posture's bad, because they're always looking
down. Almost certainly. I mean, this comes down to it's perception and action. So if you can hold your postures in a certain way, if the environment constrains for that, and you can hold these certain positions and you actually perceive everything very differently, dependent on where you're holding yourself, what your posture's like. It's called perception and action, and it's the same thing we've spoken about before. When, say, like the position of a ball when a football player's playing football, for example, I've looked at things like that. The ball being in a certain position. And if the ball's in a certain position, it allows the footballer, if it's close to straight under the centre of balance, it allows the footballer to maintain a more upright posture to look around. So they perceive the environment very differently. So you see things, see. But as soon as the ball is over there, naturally you'll be slightly there, so you don't see things quite the same. It's very interesting. If you watch, it's quite subtle, but if you watch top players, etc., you'll see that they can just see things all the time. But they're holding this position all the time. they don't really know they're doing it, but that's what's actually going on. So this posture gives us different perception, and you start to look up and see things, and it's a different world. It's a different world up there, you know. But it's probably right what you say about the kids. They're doing that all the time. All the time, yeah.
I think postures, it is like a really broad spectrum, because posture, how we're holding ourselves now versus how we're holding ourselves when we move, are two completely different things. You know, we can all make a conscious effort to like sit up straight, pull our shoulders back, try and locate our sit bones and stuff like that. But when keeping and maintaining good posture whilst we're moving, playing football, playing a sport, is a really hard thing to do. And that's why I think sort of strength training comes into that, building that good base, that good strength, good core stability, good trunk stability, so that you can sort of keep a nice erect spine and shoulders back. And
I tell you what's really interesting about this as well is that what we find is going out for a run in zone 1 allows you to practice your posture while you're moving. The faster you go, you like what you're talking there, the more intense something begets, the more game-like it becomes. You're starting to switch off that ability just to control that a wee bit. So the more time you can spend just working on it a bit, it becomes a natural thing.
If you're jogging nice and slow in zone 1, you can feel where your feet are impacting on the floor. The second you're anaerobic and you
can practice doing this, holding your position when you do that. I was actually chuffed. James said to me earlier on, says, you've got really good posture sitting on that chair. What's fascinating about that is I never used to. So it was really bad. And then when he said that, I went, oh, thanks, James, because I hadn't thought. I just put myself in a position where I was comfortable, and I thought, all right, okay, that's obviously got to that stage. So I was happy with that. You know, it's interesting. So it's just working on it, but in maintaining positions within that, and you can actually go back to see we're meant to be like that. You see, and I think what we do is with our lives is we end up not like that. It's the same as a lot of other things with food and everything. There's a way we're meant to be, but we probably slightly down-regulate all that over time. We can get it back. It's a cool thing about the body; it adapts really well.
I think a lot of the poor posture comes from sitting on chairs, and of course other than the last couple of hundreds of years, we never sat on chairs. You know what I mean? Caveman sat on the floor. So what we're designed to do is sit on the floor, not sit on chairs. You know, I won't go into the biology of having a poo, but actually sitting on the toilet, if you ever have problems going to the toilet and you're straining, you've got piles and things like that, it's because we're not designed to sit down. We're supposed to be pulling in all of our leg muscles while we go in the toilet, and that relaxes everything to let the poo out. One of the worst things you can do is sit down when you're on the toilet. Don't be wrong, we all do it.
You're supposed to have your knees above your bum, aren't you?
You have to try to
squat,
right.
Like
a poo stool with your feet like that.
Or up on your toes.
We're not going to recommend
your stability in that position.
Maybe I'll set that off on the wrong path. Look, guys, fantastic. Thanks for all your help talking about Mars. It's been brilliant. I think there's lots of information across the videos that will help people from the beginners all the way through to athletes. But the key thing is just daily think about that movement, a bit of aerobics and resistance and your stance, because aging doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be. And of course, as James said, as you've all said, the diet trumps everything. So get your diet right first.
Really important.
And then you can look at all the movement.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all your help. Thank you.